This video we're going to be looking at from Ben Shapiro is an absolute cringe fest, man. It is pretty tough to watch. It's very difficult to watch, in fact. But this is going to be a really stunning hypocrisy here that I just have to point out. And I've pointed this out on many occasions now. I've made multiple videos dedicated to this specifically because it's a really big hole in Ben Shapiro's entire the leftists are always the one to claim victim argument. This is probably his biggest argument ever. I feel like that's his biggest argument. I don't know. But he says this on a daily basis, right? The whole idea is predicated that everyone on the left is always saying that, their opposition is some sort of an ism, right? And it's like, okay, now we're going to see the flip side of what Ben Shapiro is talking about. So he's going to levy charges of rabid anti-Semitism against Ilhan Omar, and he's gonna repeat the word quite a bit. Check it out.
Democratic extremism is not relegated only to the 2020 race. There's an unfortunate truth. Anti-Semitism has a home in the Democratic Party. It does. And Ilhan Omar is praised by the higher-ups in the Democratic Party, despite saying routinely anti-Semitic things. Every 2 weeks, she has to apologize for anti-Semitism. She's like that GIF from Futurama, days since accident. The person who goes up and nails up a 1 and then the 1 falls down to reveal a 0. Days since anti-Semitism. Ilhan Omar, usually it's about 10, and then she has to reset it back to 0. So you'll recall that Ilhan Omar, like literally 2.5 weeks ago, tweeted out it's all about the Benjamins with regard to American support for Israel, as though the Jews, the nefarious Jews, were paying off Americans to support Israel. And then she apologized for it, but not really. She says, no, I never apologized for being anti-Semitic. And she walked back her own apology.
You've since apologized unequivocally for the tweet. You've said rightly that anti-Semitism is real. But just to be clear, I mean, we're a few weeks on now. I mean, what were you apologizing for? Was it a badly worded tweet that you were apologizing for? Or was it for being anti-Semitic wittingly or unwittingly?
Oh, absolutely not. I apologized for the way that my words made people feel. The reason and the purpose of the apology was to make sure that the people who were hurt felt understood and heard.
Okay, that's an amazing non-apology, right? That's so fresh and so face Ilhan Omar. I mean, on the cover of Rolling Stone with Nancy Pelosi, smiling and grinning away, open anti-Semite. Open anti-Semite. So is Rashida Tlaib, also an open anti-Semite, who in the past has suggested that American Jews are rife with dual loyalty, that American Jews only like Israel because they're actually secretly nefarious Jewish workers for the Jewish state. The Jews! It can't be that American Jews are supportive of Israel because Israel is the home of Jews protecting Jewish lives. Israel is a democracy, the only democracy in the region, and the place all over the world where Muslims have the most rights. Right? It can't be because of that. It has to be because Jews are nefarious secret agents of the Israeli state. That's really why all of this is happening. Rashida Tlaib tweeted something out about that 3 months ago. No apology from Rashida Tlaib. So open anti-Semitism, totally fine inside the Democratic Party. And Ilhan Omar, that apology is an incredible apology. Imagine that you get in a fight with your spouse and you say something truly terrible to your spouse. I mean, you do essentially what Ilhan Omar did, and you call your wife a whore. I mean, she's basically suggesting that American Jews and Americans who support Israel are whores who can be bought off with money. That's basically what she suggested when she said it's all about the Benjamins. Imagine you said to your wife, you know what, sweetheart, you're a whore. And then she said, well, that's a pretty awful thing to say. How dare you? That's an evil, terrible thing to say. And he said, you know what, I apologize for how my words made you feel. No, it's the thing you said that's evil. It's the thing you said that's bad. But Ilhan Omar never apologized really for those comments. But we were all supposed to overlook that because so fresh, so face. And of course, she can claim in her intersectional way that she is a minority woman from Somalia who is a Muslim. And therefore, that's the reason people are angry. Not because she's a rabid anti-Semite and she's been consistently anti-Semitic for legitimately her entire career. It's not because of that. It's because she's a Muslim woman that people are very angry at her. Weird, because there are lots of Muslims that I know who are not anti-Semitic. And yet she is anti-Semitic. So I have very little faith that this has anything to do with Islam. I have a lot of faith that it has to do with her being a blatant anti-Semite is the reason why people are upset with her.
So, of course, as I explained earlier, this is truly remarkable, stunning hypocrisy on the part of Ben Shapiro. The way that I like to phrase it, is that he likes to spam the anti-Semite card, because basically he's somebody who always, and I mean always, levies that charge against people who disagree with him, who are Jewish. He does that to everybody, but he goes even deeper, and this is a really disgusting way, is where he questions, and not questions, he outright denies the validity of the Jewishness of people who critique Israel for, all the horrifying things that they do. And by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's about to get indicted, so it looks like y'all are a better democracy than I thought. So good on you. Hopefully that dude ends up behind bars. I'll be really, really excited. That day is a day we celebrate very heavily. Fuck that guy. But anyways, back to the point here. The point here being that he's actually gone as far to say that he says that most Jews who hate themselves are Democrats, because they vote for Democrats, because Jewish people go, I believe about 70% go Democrat. About 70% of the Jewish vote actually goes Democrat. And so essentially what you're saying there is you're levying a charge against a vast majority of Jews in the United States who vote, at least. But it's really representative of everyone, all the Jewish community in the United States. What you're essentially telling me is that the vast majority of the Jewish community in the United States are self-hating Jews. And we talked about how he levied the charge of, a self-hating Jew against Glenn Greenwald. It's a really disgusting claim to make, because it's such a harsh, it's like giving the death penalty without having a single court hearing, like any shred of due process. Like, you can't just levy a charge like that against someone, not back it up with any evidence, and then if you do back it up with any evidence, it doesn't make any sense. And so in the context of this, what you're looking at is calling Ilhan Omar an anti-Semite, because she rightfully called out AIPAC and their influence that exists in American politics. It's undeniable, factual. If you are to deny that, you are really getting into some really stupid territory here. There's no debate about that whatsoever. I went into extensive detail on that issue, talking about, personal account of someone who, it literally was about the Benjamins, and other people who have spoken about, what exists with AIPAC in the United States. No doubt whatsoever. She was completely on point. And then he goes on to, get pissed off about her apology. And he says, well, it wasn't really an apology. You're damn right, because she didn't say anything wrong. She was doing this, and this is why I didn't get when people, got pissed at her for apologizing. Like, dude, I know that you're, you're not in her position, but she's a rep in the House, and she's facing possible, censure or fucking, expulsion wasn't going to happen, but certainly some people wanted that to happen. And so when you put yourself in a position, and actually I should say, more importantly, getting removed from committees. And so when you have getting removed from committees on the weight scale of, oh, hey, I can give this apology that says I'm sorry for people who are offended by it, but then reiterate my stance, which effectively I don't lose anything from that. Anybody who reads the fucking apology knows what it says, just like, Benny Schaap did here. He's mad about it. And then you don't lose your committee seats or anything like that. Like, people, you have to make a decision like that, and I totally understand why she did that. But if you read her apology, it's not an apology, dude. She reaffirms her stance. So I saw people getting mad at that from the left. I was like, what? What are you doing, dude? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, yes, you're right, Ben. The apology wasn't an apology on purpose, because what she said was not fucking anti-Semitic. There's no, ifs, ands, or but about that. And there's an issue raised there that he says, which is dual loyalty, the issue of dual loyalty. This is actually a point made by David Pakman in his video that I didn't respond to because I didn't understand his comment and what it had to do with AIPAC. But the dual loyalty thing, I still don't really have it fully fleshed out. I tried fleshing out the idea in terms of trying to put myself in an analogous role there. But what he's saying there is that basically there's a charge of dual loyalty that's levied against people who are Jewish, because Israel is the state of, it's literally a Jewish state, So are you really going to try and tell me that the reason why you support it so rabidly and so much is because it's a democracy and all this supposed glorious stuff, and not that it's a state that's made for Jews? Like, are you kidding me? Are you even going to act like that? What? Are you trolling? But you're right. I mean, the same reverse thing exists among people who are, whatever, from Afghanistan who move here or whatever. But that's not really the issue we're dealing with here, though. And so the issue of dual loyalty is not really an issue that I think there's a problem with. I mean, that's going to happen. I mean, the United States especially, that's particularly something that ends up being an issue for sure. Or not an issue, but just something that ends up showing up. So what you're looking at in this situation is the whole dual loyalty thing is not something that's really a criticism, because it exists sort of everywhere. But the thing that what I have a problem with is when you make the claim that the reason why you support Israel is because it's such a glorious country, and not that it's the state for Jewish people. Are you serious, bro? Are you gonna say that to me with a straight face? With a straight face? What? And so you kind of get into, and also when it comes into that conversation about dual loyalty, you can also kind of go, okay, well, why are you defending this country so rabidly from actual legitimate criticisms? And then you can realize, oh, hey, it's because you are from that country. But the same thing could be said for vice versa. So, like, let's say, I don't know, someone comes here from Afghanistan and then they're defending whatever. See, I can't even come up with a legitimate situation, but maybe like someone from India, and then they're supporting Modi or whatever, and they're defending them so rabidly because they're from India. That's problematic too. We should be objective in whatever it is. We should all be objective. We should strive to be objective regardless of whatever presumed dual loyalties or whatever. But overall, I don't really see that as an issue there, or a criticism that's used that much. And he ends up packing the word anti-Semite. I literally think it was like 6 times in the last 10 seconds of that clip. He loves that word. He says it a lot. Like, I feel like he goes out of his way to try to use it. It's really weird. And then just to kind of end off here, there's something funny that I was thinking about. Now, we know that Ben Shapiro has kind of like a lusting thing with AOC, because of just how insane, like, tethered he is to her. And I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder what he feels like when he sees AOC at the House Oversight Committee, asking Michael Cohen questions that are opening up Donald Trump to being subpoenaed for his tax returns, and then, possibly end up being prosecuted after he's out of the presidency for tax fraud and different tax crimes, while Ben Shapiro is like in his studio, or on his phone tweeting. I just thought that was just a funny situation. But anyways, Ben Shapiro, massive fraud, massive hypocrite, knows no bounds whatsoever, and the dude is just a clown, man. He's a fucking clown. He tries to make these charges that are not backed up by any evidence. In fact, the vast majority of time, they're just wrong, outright wrong, like they are in this case.